Marines, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy. I never served, but I am really grateful for those who have. And I know, Sean Davis, you've always talked much about your service and service of others, and I appreciate it. And I don't know who else on this committee has served, but I do plan to at least have our moment of silence in recognition of that. I realize that Veterans Day is already passed, but it's never a bad time.
Mr. Holland calls it Veterans Week.
Okay. And I guess we could call it Marines Day too, right?
Mr. Spoonhour and I would vote for that.
All right, well, I guess we could. All right, so please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, Ms. Scott, can we have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Town of Ashland, Chair McGraw.
Here.
Charles City County, Mr. Atkins.
Well,
Chesterfield County, Mr. Engel.
Here.
Goochland County, Mr. Spoonhour.
Here.
Hanover County, Mr. Davis.
Here.
Henrico County, Reverend Nelson. New Kent County, Vice Chair Stewart.
Here.
Powhatan County, Mr. McClung. And City of Richmond, Dr. Newville.
here.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call for attendance. We do have a quorum.
Yes, Henrico has a big event going on today, so that's why we're not seeing our Henrico members. And it's why it's really important for us to all be in attendance so we can have our quorums and get things passed and rolling forward. So it's not that they're skipping out. It's all right. All right, so consideration for amendments to agenda. Let me just read over the agenda briefly. We have public comment time, we have approval of our minutes, we have our review of our survey results, and I really think that's it. And then we have our adjournment. Is there any other new stuff? So anybody want to amend the agenda or any thoughts to that? All right, not seeing anything. We're at the public comment time. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over one because I didn't hear from anybody who wanted to participate remotely, so do I need to make a motion or do I need to read that through? Okay, all right, sorry, in my brain I skipped over because I didn't see anything, so then I looked back and I saw. So anyone here who would like to speak publicly? Not seeing any, I will close public comment time and work towards the approval of our minutes from September 12th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
So we got Newbell and seconded by
Mr.
Engel. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we move on to our polls, and I'll turn this over to Ms. Schickel.
Thank you, appreciate it. So we, at the September meeting, as a committee, reviewed the survey questions and got feedback from each of you about what you thought would be the most appropriate questions to ask. This was an initiative started by Dr. McGraw this year with the intention of doing this pulse survey at the beginning of the fiscal year, and then we'll submit the same survey to each of you toward the end of the fiscal year. And so I think in many respects, this morning's review of the results serves as our baseline. And then we can hopefully move in one direction and not the other for responses in the spring and going forward. So overall, we had a small sample size of 9, just each of the representatives here on the executive committee from our 9-member jurisdictions, with 7 participating in the survey. So I think we're both really pleased with the turnout of that. And thanks to all of you who submitted your responses. What I've done is just given you a summary of the answers. So the bolded section for each of the 7 questions is there, giving you a sense of what the responses were, and then the unbolded text underneath are the quotes or attributions of what anybody wrote in the open response sections. So I'll hit the highlights. We had 7 responses, 100% indicating PlanRVA is effective at identifying important regional issues. This was a question that was closed, just a yes or no, so it was binary, so that was great. On the rest of the questions were gradient answers, so we had everything from strongly agree on one end to strongly disagree on the other end. And so on number 2, we had 5 of the 7 responses either strongly agree or agree that their locality is satisfactorily engaged by PlanRVA. Number 3, 7 responses or 100% indicating that we are responsive to requests from member localities. Number 4, 7, all of the responses indicated confidence in knowing who to contact. I believe that was actually a yes or no question as well. Number 5, 85% or 6 out of 7 indicated we're effective at forming professional working relationships. 5 out of 7 indicated PlanRVA provides quality communications, and 3 out of 7 indicated a desire for PlanRVA to provide additional support. I think in particular this one, I think some of the comments kind of help. One person who answered a no on that one said, we're more neutral. We don't want to turn down additional support, but right now it's not a priority for us. So I think, I didn't get the sense that the no's were yes, yeah, thank you, a negative about the agency, based on the comments. So I think it'd be nice to just be able to have a little bit of discussion and maybe some suggestions and or thoughts about how we could move the needle on some of these questions to be able to get more favorable responses in the spring time, which is kind of the goal of this, right? To be able to give us direction about where we need to focus energy to improve.
Thoughts, initial thoughts?
I do, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I commend you. Thanks for taking the leadership position that this needed to be done, and it's quite interesting. Surveys are kind of a neat thing. Sometimes they're anomalies. You pick up things that you didn't. Anybody have any thoughts on, question 1, 7 responses, question 2, 5 responses, back to question 3, 7 responses. Could that tell us anything? Is my first question. The other thing that I noticed is I didn't see anything really derogatory, even if somebody answered in a way that if they qualified that. And Ms. Shickley brought that up too. So, but yeah, thank you for doing that. Anybody have any thoughts, Mr. Chairman, on the responses? And again, number 4 back to 7. I wonder why people skip questions. Does that tell us anything, or is that?
I'm sorry, I might have been confusing. We didn't have
3
anyone
of
skip a
7
question.
indicated that a yes or a desire. All 7
We had 2
responded.
that did not report.
No, they wrote, I'm sorry, on question 2, 2 people said.
3 said
Okay,
yes.
so I have to add the last line.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So there is 7 responses to everything.
Got it. Math for Marines. I got you.
That might be my problem. I asked Ms. Schickle to do a percentage of like satisfaction rating. And so when you see 100% seem to be satisfied.
Gotcha.
80% seem to be satisfied. And so like some growth areas might be number 7, number 6.
Right.
Some continued efforts might be some of the others.
I see.
That was really neat.
And number 7
I
is
got
at 43% is not a satisfaction rating. It's a desire, who has a desire, not necessarily a satisfaction
Yeah.
rating.
Right.
So-
Okay.
And I'll just give an anecdotal, because I asked some of the
Makes
people in our small town, like, what did PlanRVA do for you? Like, specifically, and how? And we created a new position through COVID. Luckily, the federal government had given us some funds to create a position that we thought was very important, and now we're funding it because it truly is. And this started with our public engagement officer, and then that turned into having a Parks and Rec position, a specific, and for our small town, that's a big deal. Like to specifically have someone dedicated to our Parks and Recreation was a big deal, and that person really wanted to get started but didn't know how to get started. And so PlanRVA gave them a shell for, this is how you can look at your entire area, and this is a region, and they actually provided content for that document, and now we have a physical document. And there were some errors in it because PlanRVA is so far away from the action, like they can't get every picture right and everything. And so then our director then went in and kind of worked from there. And so they were very excited to have somebody like give them direction and how you collect data, how you put stuff together, how you organize something to that end. So our town is very excited, but we're also only 15 minutes away from Richmond, so it's a little bit easier for the communication piece. So from our end, it was there. I don't know if that helps us get started with some conversation, because maybe other localities didn't get that, or maybe they're further away and so forth. I see some nods from Neil, and I didn't know if you had some thoughts going on.
Still marinating.
Okay.
I think the larger the locality, the more they have staff, it's honestly in somewhat of a duplication of efforts to, or at least working collaboratively, where the smaller the jurisdiction, the more likely they need the additional support in some of the areas where people said no. I think that's probably because they have people already doing it where the other jurisdictions don't. It just, to me, that's probably the difference in the responses, is how many people you have in your jurisdiction doing that work.
Yeah, so if I can interject, I think a good example of that is, there's been a conversation recently that was initiated by our larger jurisdiction saying, I wonder if we could coordinate on the purchase of software so that we could get a discount. If every jurisdiction is purchasing this particular software subscription, it's a duplicative purchase, but if our organization were to purchase it and extend access to the licenses to each of the jurisdictions, it would be one cost divided by 9, not multiplied by, or, in this case, the large jurisdictions frankly probably are the only communities that would contemplate being able to afford that. So I think you're spot on. The type of support that we could offer to a larger jurisdiction isn't necessarily in personnel resources, it's in other types of efficiencies. Whereas in a smaller jurisdiction, it might actually be lending a hand on a particular project or that kind of thing. Conversely, I know Mr. Spoonhour knows about this because he referred his staff to me, but we have our on-call list for the marketing communications firms, and so that's an available program that any of the jurisdictions can procure from through cooperative procurement. And Eric's just helped us navigate through a second on-call program for pre-engineering and planning services. So we have both of those on-call programs that any of our member jurisdictions can purchase from, which is compliant with Virginia procurement, but also helps to be able to move consultant supported projects along a little bit faster. So that's something that maybe universally every jurisdiction might consider if they think that they would like to use services from either of those benches. But it's not our hands-on staff, as you were talking about, in that way. So we've been trying to think about creative ways to be useful to the larger jurisdictions as well.
All right, it's marinating.
I'm done marinating. So Martha brings up some great points, and it's gonna sound maybe contradictory, but sometimes I think we're a victim of our own success, right? I used to work with an organization called Goochland Cares that had 13 different health and human services offerings. And depending on who you talk to, Goochland Cares was, oh, they're the clothes closet, oh, they're the dentistry, oh, they're the financial aid folks. Nobody really knew holistically what Goochland Cares was. I feel like that's sort of where we are. Folks in our I'll speak for Goochland, folks in our staff know PlanRVA for what they've had to interact with, whether it's, PlanRVA, yeah, they do the emergency management. When I hear saying, okay, well, we're gonna offer software services, I'm like, well, does that really tie back to the mission of PlanRVA? Maybe it does. It doesn't sound like a planning thing to me, but if it's hey, we're also gonna offer planning and ancillary support, then that's different. So I think we have to be careful of diluting our services to where people aren't really sure what our true core mission is, to be able to engage us for that core mission.
That's a good point.
So there.
I think we all get into, well, as a teacher, we get into that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, we're always trying to serve, and at some point, we find ourselves doing everything. And,
Right.
And then the student's like, well, I guess I don't have to do anything but show up.
Right.
You know? But no, it's, I get your point. Like, that is something to consider. Something to New Ken.
Very good. I've seen Ms. Schickel 3 times now in the last 12 hours, so it's been really great. And I did not fill out the survey, but I asked our county administrator to, because since I'm new in this realm, I didn't feel qualified to answer the questions in any sort of useful way. And I think our county administrator has been very happy with what we are getting from PlanRVA, but I think our opportunity now lies in the fact that we have a new economic development and tourism director. So we met yesterday to discuss ways that we can engage with PlanRVA to look into the future of best practices for how we may develop in the future. So I think that the conversation will be more robust in the future, but I think Rodney was happy on all accounts from how it's been in the past.
Nice. How about in Richmond?
I've been pretty excited about the potential in terms of what PlanRVA, the places that you've stepped into. I was at U of R last evening, actually, expected to see you there.
I was in Kent County,
Oh,
sorry.
okay, that's it, okay. And, but really, working across the region to engage us on a variety of issues, whether it's education, or in this case, it was,
Childcare.
exactly, and all of the entities, and really pulling, folks together across the region to have a coherent statement and hopefully action in that regard. So that housing, emergency management. So for me, it's been really helpful. Yeah, I mean, I've really appreciated the leadership and having a table to come together and someone who's able to really foster the regional conversation around issues. So.
Charles City?
Well, actually,
Jackie?
the county ministry and I sat down to do it together. We're very pleased with what we've got from PlanRVA, especially when that redistricting process. We've been working more collaboratively to get more data as relates to transportation. We have a good working relationship, and anything that we come up with, we always get a positive response. And we've for years prior to being named PlanRVA, had a very good working relationship. So we're pleased with the services that we get.
Let's move over to Hanover County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think there's been a dynamic shift with PlanRVA over the past couple of years with not only engagement, but being relevant with localities on specific issues and the diversity between the counties. I mean, you've got Goochland, maybe you have Chesterfield. There may be some crossover, but they could be dealing with very different things. Of course, Hanover and Goochland could be dealing with very similar things. And the resiliency of PlanRVA to provide support to all of those localities has been demonstrated and certainly recognized by us, and we're appreciative of that. So, thank you.
I know Chesterfield spoke, but I don't know if I called on you directly, so I figured.
Well,
Good, now that I've-
I would just say that big picture, we do a lot on our own, but we are thankful for the collaboration with the region and where we can work together. I know that New Kent wouldn't see what's happening on 64 if we didn't all come together and work together. So where we need that united front, that's why we're part of the organization. And we still have other things that obviously PlanRVA does help and share with the county, but we're not as reliant necessarily on the services, but we definitely are reliant on the relationship.
I'll second that. I'll second that, because I feel like the relationship has been really important, especially and I'm speaking from a small organization, or a small town, and to be able to be at the table with really important and influential people has been remarkable. Because from those who have more faculty and more ability, that they may not realize the needs of those in more rural areas. And so when you hear the words from people, it kind of changes the dynamics, changes the language. And so that's been the biggest plus for us. And then specifically, I wanted to say, if it wasn't for PlanRVA, I don't think the GRTC mass or local transit would have come to our locality, and then we wouldn't have had that micro transit opportunity. And so that has been a huge success in our town. So much so that it's growing and we can't keep up with the demand right now. And so, for those of you who aren't aware, I think you all are aware, but I just wanna make sure I'm clear. The micro transit is right now a free service from GRTC, where if you will download an app onto their
It's
phone.
a fare
they
free
call.
service. Everything has a cost. I'm
Well,
on the
I'm sorry.
GRTC board, so.
Well, yeah, everything has a cost, but I'm saying for the.
But it's fare free for the ride.
The end
Right.
user,
For
the
the
end
rider.
user is not seeing a cost right now. And
That's right.
eventually, maybe our town picks it up, or maybe that end user picks it up, I don't know, but there's no direct cost to them for that user.
And Ashland's slaying it. Out of all the microtransits, Ashland is just really
Well,
off the charts.
We have a very, in my opinion, we have a dense population, for such a small town, we do have a fairly dense population, and, I mean, we're only 8 square miles and we have 8,000 people. So to me, I think it's pretty dense, but I don't know how other people feel. And we're really close to really important places. Like I said, we're only 15, 20 minutes away from Richmond, we're only 20 minutes away from Goochland, we're in Hanover County, we're pretty far from Chesterfield and New Kent, but for everyone else, I mean, we're really close in my opinion. So anyway, that was to me a direct result. Anyone else wanna talk on anything extra from Goochland or? No? Unfortunately, Palatine is not here, but that's okay. How about for the survey? I really thought that the survey would be a good starting point, and the reason why I say that is because at the end of this cycle, we're then gonna evaluate PlanRVA staff, and we're gonna make recommendations of financial recommendations for the staff members, and we're also gonna make recommendations for going forward, what they should be doing. So is there anything that was missing from this survey, or is there any thoughts on the survey effectiveness or any of that?
From just doing the survey, I thought it was on point. Matter of fact, it was enhancing to us also to look at some other areas that we might get additional service and expand our knowledge of what's available in a better working relationship. Pretty much things, if there's anything that we weren't getting, it's because we hadn't asked for it. So we got a better view of what we should be doing more of as relates to PlanRVA.
Good point.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I have to resist, there are many areas that I'd love us to look at from a regional perspective, and so I have to resist coming to Ms. Schickel to say, okay, what about these items that, impact us across, don't stop at the lines that divide the region. So there are many issues that I think that I'd love to see us partake in as a region, but there are a lot of them, so.
Put them on the table.
Okay, Martha, you heard
All
that
right,
right?
I got my
Okay,
pen.
all right. I'll get with Martha.
All right. Yes, Mr. Gregory.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and sort of jumping off what Dr. Newbill said, whenever an organization like this, one of our clients, looks at sort of introspective about what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, how can we improve and everything, I always suggest, well, as part of that, look at your governing documents, look at the purpose, look at the statute that established planning district commissions, and what's your job under the law? And so if you look at 15.2 4207 under the Regional Cooperation Act, the planning district commission's doing exactly what it should do and what it can do, but it's always good to sort of refresh, and remember that, remind ourselves of that, right? So I'm just quoting from the 15.2 4207, the purposes of the commission. The cooperation resulting from this chapter is intended to facilitate the recognition and analysis of regional opportunities and take account of regional influences in planning and implementing public policies and services. Functional areas warranting regional cooperation may include, but shall not be limited to, economic, and physical infrastructure development, solid waste, water supply and other environmental management, transportation, criminal justice, emergency management, human services, and recreation. Types of regional cooperative arrangements that commissions may pursue include but are not limited to facilitation of revenue sharing agreements, joint service delivery approaches, joint government purchasing of goods and services, regional databases, and regional plans. So that's just part of it. The Planning Commission is also able to conduct studies on issues and problems of regional significance, identify and study potential opportunities, identify a mechanism for the coordination of state and local interests, implement services upon request of member localities, et cetera. So I would, just for your own benefit and the benefit of your staffs and the full commission, go back and take a look at that from time to time, just to make sure that you all are staying on task. I mean, clearly you are, but it never hurts. Just a suggestion.
How much staff, Mr. Chair, would we have to hire to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't do it all. There are limitations, and it's interesting if you look at and I think Martha can attest to this personally, every planning district commission in the Commonwealth is a little different in what they do and how they do it. And many of them have, sort of specialties that they've developed over the years, which is really interesting. So some focus more on emergency management, or some others might focus more on transportation, or some others might focus more on planning, whatever it may be. But I think PlanRVA, if I can toot your horn a little bit, does a lot of those things very well. And is what I tell people when I talk about it, and I just, I'm not kissing up too much, I hope not, but I hope, but I tell people, like, this is where regionalism works, in PlanRVA and your associated agencies, and it works because I think you all have such a good relationship in this room and with Martha and your staff. Yeah. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Sorry.
I appreciate that. That's really good. It takes me back to what Mr. Spoonhour was saying, like, we're a product of our own success. Like, I've spoken with many leaders from other planning districts, members who are part of that, where they don't cooperate as well, and they don't seem to come to a consensus or agreement. So they don't get as much done or get anything done in some instances, whereas we seem to work well on one end because we have a great director, but on the other end, we have members that want to cooperate. And so that's very helpful. So I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you take us back to the document. That actually is good. It's helpful because it's easy to get off track, especially you start doing something well and you want to do something else well, and you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing. So
May I say a couple things?
Sure.
Okay, well, so I, in reviewing the results, I have spent a lot of time not trying to internalize the comments, but really try to, think through how to use this effectively over the next 6 or so months. And so, just as Eric suggested, another layer of this in kind of going back to the code and what is our charge, our mandate from the General Assembly, but also going back to some of the work that we have done as the Executive Committee and the full board with our strategic plan from 2019, and also the goal setting that we had for this year. So specifically, I wanted to just kind of call out the goals that this Executive Committee also approved in September were 5 kind of core areas for focus. For me, but also for the staff at large. And so those are coalesce our regional strategic plan, which is a callback directly to one of our primary deliverables as an organization, is to prepare the region's strategic plan. And so our approach to that and fulfilling that requirement is not to go out and do a full-blown regional planning effort. There are lots of plans that already exist for the region, and so how do we knit those together to make sure that there's a cohesive message? You all, as leaders of the region at our joint annual meeting in June, helped a little bit with sort of identifying themes. We'll talk about that again at the joint annual meeting in December. So that's a big piece of that key imperative bucket. Another of the big bucket key imperatives is be the regional convener. So that's providing the backbone support that we do to CDTA and the Emergency Management Alliance and BRRTPO, but also convening various groups. I think that that's a call to one of the suggestions that was here, plan to have quarterly meetings with staff on number 7. So we are working to enhance that connection that we're having with your locality staff on a more regular basis. We've initiated this fiscal year a frequency where our small jurisdictions, economic development folks get together, our planning directors or their staff members, however they want that participation to look, are getting together. Both of those groups are getting together, I think, about every 6 weeks. Janice has taken on responsibility, Barbara J. Cox leads those two groups. Janice has taken on the responsibility to convene on a regular basis your locality clerks and support liaison personnel for board of supervisor or council members, but also our public information officers. So we've been trying to get that group together a little bit more. That's a group of people we've learned wear many hats and have lots of duties. And so we've found that there's been a lot of synergy in those folks actually getting to meet each other. They email one another a lot, but some of them had never seen live faces before. They got together this summer. So that's been really great. We already for years have been convening, of course, our transportation staff and our environmental services staff, but we've been trying to add a couple of other groups of personnel in your localities to be able to build that connective tissue across the region. One of the other key imperatives is support member jurisdictions through local planning assistance. I set a fairly aggressive goal of being able to, by the end of the fiscal year, name a thing that we did in each of your communities that was of value. And so we're working on that, and I think just even as Ms. Stewart mentioned, we had the opportunity to get together yesterday, to meet their new economic development director, and we came up with a project idea that I think had it not been for the face-to-face, we might not have been able to brainstorm. So that reminded me that the visit, the time, just sort of that casual setting, we do that with Ashland, we do that with some of your jurisdictions is really beneficial. So I'm working to do that. I will mention, just in Mr. McClung's absence, Barbara and I will be attending the kickoff meeting for a new committee that's forming in Powhatan County around update and revision of their comprehensive plan to align the comp plan with their new strategic plan that they'll be adopting in December. And so we don't quite know what the ask will be for support in that effort yet, but we're coming to that first meeting to be able to identify what we can do to lend a hand there. So even though he's not here today, we're working with staff and board members there. Serve as the regional data hub, again, that's a key part of what Eric read in the code. And so continuing our role as that regional clearinghouse for locality members, but I mean, Mr. Atkins, hearing you say that it was helpful on the redistricting front.
Yeah.
I hope that by the end of the calendar year, we will be ready to launch our regional indicators dashboard. We've gotten the housing data, I think, pretty well set up, and we're demoing the site with our housing, socioeconomic, and demographic data right now. And then over time, we'll be able to load in our transportation data and that kind of thing, which will be provided at a regional level, but anybody can go in and zoom down to the lowest geography that data is available. So whether that be county or city or town, or in some cases for the data sets, it might even be by census tract or block group. It's not always as easy to do all the data across those smaller geographies, but where it's available, we'll have it available in GIS mapping, but also in tabular and chart form. So we're really excited about that, and that'll be something that is a big part of this morning's full commission meeting with the dues assessment discussion, to be able to really invest in that data capability here at the agency. And then the last one is ensuring compliance and agency sustainability. That's really more of a goal kind of inward, but it speaks to just being able to shore up that we have the professional capabilities that when we're called upon, we have the ability to respond. And so making sure that we are maybe an inch deep on a lot of things so that we at least can be a conduit to be able to refer and know who has expertise when a locality asks. And then on the key areas that feel like thematically kind of keep coming up, how do we build that staff depth so that we can really be responsive? The conversation we had yesterday about the park, that might be something that we can sink our teeth into and build that expertise, and then that could be replicable in other communities. I think some of the work that we've done with our tribal nations has been really exciting to really be able to kind of better understand what that emerging relationship looks like between local government and the tribes. It's different for each of them certainly, but that's been really beneficial. But that's probably not super applicable to Goochland County. And so figuring out kind of what's important to you all, but also, you know, where we can kind of can share and replicate is really about that compliance and sustainability piece of it. So I just wanted to kind of bring it back in. I was thinking that maybe in February, I could give a rundown of the status of where we are with each of these goals and try to weave in where it aligns, the feedback that we got on the questionnaire so that we don't lose momentum in moving some of the suggestions forward here.
Sounds good.
So, okay,
Thank you for that, I appreciate it.
I'll get off my soapbox now too.
That's quite all right. Any other comments from anyone? Any new items? Because I think that's the end of our agenda, right?
Well, I just let express appreciation for this wonderful picture on the cover of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought you might like that. And well, I'm taking credit. It's actually, I have nothing to do with it. I think that's Sid and Janice.
Where is
that
this?
lead that.
Charles.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, we have the 2024 Regional Action Summit hosted by PlanRVA on November 19th. We have the 2024 Virginia Economic Summit and Forum on International Trade hosted by Virginia Chamber on December 6th. And we have the 2025 State of Housing and Richmond Region hosted by Partnership for Housing Affordability on January 23rd. So lots of things coming up in addition to the other stuff that we all have in our own localities.
And I asked Dr. McGraw if he wouldn't mind mentioning those, and we'll repeat it if it's okay at the full commission meeting. We got news that local elected officials registration for the November 19th Chamber RVA Action Summit event, the fee will be waived. So if that's an event, it's regularly $199 registration, which is, as you can imagine, if multiple elected officials from a jurisdiction want to go, that's pretty steep. And so I'd be happy to coordinate registration if anybody from your locality as an elected official would like to attend that. It's next Tuesday from 8:30 to 3:30 at Bright Point Community College. Similarly.
Just a question, I know it's not necessarily directly related to PlanRVA, but we've been having a lot of discussion in Chesterfield because of the Prince William County ruling on FOIA. If it's not open to the general public and we don't adjourn to it, which we can't adjourn to it unless it's open to the general public, then if it's ceremonial, promotional, just like a Christmas gathering or something of that nature, it's okay. But if there's any kind of policy or anything that could end up on your agenda that only 2 board members can actually attend because of the ruling in the case, and we haven't seen any other jurisdiction that is even shown concern to that, but our legal counsel is like all over us for that. So I don't know what everybody's doing and how, I don't know that that's even something there, but when you said we're gonna waive, and if you have multiple people, it popped in my head, well, I don't know that we're even allowed to send multiple people from our jurisdiction. So I'm not sure what other people, now for like PlanRVA, we're good because any public body that's already made an announcement and keeps minutes, that's already covered under FOIA, so we can have all 5 of our board members here without adjourning to this meeting. But at one time, we had to adjourn to this meeting when we didn't understand that part of the ruling. Actually, I just got changed, I think, in this last General Assembly.
That's right.
To fix that. But I'm just, when you said it, it popped in my head. I don't know if everybody else is even aware of it.
I can't recall exactly when that case came out, but there was legislation passed that by the General Assembly last session that became effective July 1st that specifically addresses that dynamic where you have a public function where, and we run into this all the time with our clients and with elected officials, and we addressed it specifically with the PlanRVA, or it was our TPO's plan to go down to the Port of Virginia, right? How do you do that and comply with FOIA? It's not a meeting. You're not doing any business. but it does address public policy in a way. So how do you do that without violating FOIA? And that legislation that became effective July 1 specifically addresses that issue.
But a
And it-
chamber RVA meeting is different, right? Because you gotta be a member of the chamber. It's not open to the public and it's
They'll let
invitation.
anybody register.
Anybody can register, okay.
They
well,
might have a tier.
I don't know if a
but
fee makes it considered
Yeah.
open to the public or not. I don't know. I do know that some parts of it were addressed, but in general, can we go to the realtors yearly
I mean, we've-
function if there's any policy discussed at it? It's not just hey, we're getting together to say,
Just by
Merry
virtue of the
Christmas.
fact that policy is a topic of or part of the purpose of the gathering generally, my view, my interpretation of the legislation is that that doesn't put the multiple members of an elected body who may be attending in a position that they're violating FOIA. Just because it's addressed, public policy concepts are addressed generally. It doesn't qualify as a meeting under FOIA. That's my view. We'll go back and take another look at that.
I'd love for you to
principle
have a
because-
conversation with our county attorney just to
Sure.
see. We think it's ridiculous in not serving your citizens if you're not going to educational opportunities and learning as much as you can. But we have concerns from our council that we could what we've been told is if you know about it and you do it, that you actually can be liable, and it's not even something the county can cover. You're personally liable for the fine.
We've definitely alerted our partner organizations that this is of concern, and so to be thoughtful. I mean, I can't control what they decide to do and how they decide to do it, but Eric and I have had a number of conversations about this over the last several months, and we've let many of those regional partners who host events that do want to encourage your attendance know that this is a challenge, and so
I think what's on their agenda is what our council is looking at. What is their agenda
Yeah.
or lack of policy agenda? If there's no policy to it, then I think he's generally says it's not a problem. If there's policy that could one day end up on our agenda for one of our board meetings, then he's like, no.
Yeah, and I mean, I would assume that because the Action Summit next Tuesday is focused on housing and workforce, those are topics that are likely to show up on your agenda one day. So, her definitely, I suppose that based on the rules and the guidance that you've gotten from legal counsel, if you do have two that are gonna be the county's board representatives, the fee would be waived for those two.
I just was curious. Thank you. Sorry to go
Yeah.
into all that.
No,
It's been something that we've talked about a lot lately, and
Yeah.
I don't think, I want my council to be not correct, because I think we should be able to attend many of the things regionally, but I wanna make sure that if he is correct, that I'm not getting myself into a bad spot.
Never a bad thing to take a conservative view on FOIA compliance, we always try to do that, but, and I certainly wouldn't want to contradict your legal counsel. We'll take another look at it, be happy to speak with them.
Thank you.
That'd be great. I appreciate that. I mean, that's just something that everybody needs to be aware of, just in case there is a problem.
And I think to your point, this organization convenes a lot. And so we have, at a staff level, on advice from Eric, decided, I'll say, to err on that side of caution. And so even where it's not explicitly required that we do public notice, even of the technical staff committees, we are noticing them and we are publishing on them on our calendar. The video communications has become more and more, Sid can attest to most things that happen in this room have and so that has made it more transparent and accessible, and I think we're trying to see that as an opportunity and not a limitation, but we're conscious of it because there are so many things that happen
And
across the
we
region.
feel very comfortable that any regional boards that comply with FOIA and put out public notice are totally covered with the newest update to
I think
legislation.
you just did the new training, right, Janice? Yeah, with the training that your team puts on, so thank you for that.
Sure.
Thanks for that. It's a good reminder. The other two, I asked you to highlight these three events because we are a partner in some way on them. We are a participating host for the Economic Summit on December 6th, and they've provided us 5 complimentary registrations. So if anybody's interested in that, again, I don't know if it says right here on the screen what the fee is to register, but it's an opportunity if there's interest. And then finally, I feel a little bit weird saying this, but I'll just name that I believe I'll be playing a larger role in the State of Housing event in January, and so just wanted to share that with you all as, I guess, my supervisors, to know that that will be happening, and again, PlanRVA will be playing a more prominent role in that particular event in January, which is open to the public, but I know it does have a registration fee this year. Those are my
It's all good. Any further comment or new business?
In General Assembly, when they did that law, they changed their ability to caucus as well, right? They don't caucus any longer. They only need 2.
They fully exempted themselves from the rule.
So we're still on board.
Are we sure about that? That would seem
Yeah,
strange.
they have fully exempted themselves from that.
Okay, thank you. I
That's
appreciate it.
important. Well, it's valuable. Well, it's because we don't want to be in a court system like when you're trying to just do your job and then all of a sudden you find yourself in trouble. I get it.
We err on the side of caution. If there are 2 people, it's gonna be noticed.
Yeah. Okay.
Papers bogus.
Alright. Well, there's a joint annual meeting December 5th, 2025, PlanRVA here, 8:30. And our next regular commission meeting is February 13th, where we'll get an update from Martha on how she's implemented, or her team has implemented some of the things from the survey.
Thank you, Mr.